You are a Locked On Braves postcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, your team every day.
And hello and welcome into the Braves postcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Grant McAuley alongside Jake Mastroianni after what was, at least it seemed like, maybe a get-right day for the Braves. If you just looked at the final score, an 8-1 win over the Pirates, they avoid a 3-game sweep. They have a 500 road trip. Unfortunately, all of that kind of took a backseat to an injury scare to the Braves' best player, and one of the best players in all of baseball is Ronald Acuña Jr. had to leave the game with a knee injury. We're going to have a big update on that. Of course, we'll be awaiting more details, but we're certainly going to react to it here, and we'll talk about all the ins and outs of the Braves weekend in Pittsburgh. Forgettable as much of it was, Sunday's game was at least a step in the right direction, and Chris Sale continued to dominate. We'll talk about all of it here on this edition of the Postcast. Make sure you hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to Locked On Sports Atlanta here on YouTube and to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. And download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms, of course, apply. Well, Jake, I think I laid it out about as well as I could. If you just looked at the score, you might feel pretty good about what the Braves did on Sunday. But if you were watching the game and unfortunately watching Ronald Acuña Jr.'s first trip on the base paths today, it was time to hold your collective breaths if you're Braves country. But maybe, just maybe, that injury bullet has been dodged, at least the toughest one.
Yeah, you certainly hope so. I mean, it's scary anytime you see Ronald going down with that type of injury just because of the history that he has there. Certainly was a gut punch to Braves fans right out of the gate. But in the end, I mean, a lot of players stepped up and they're going to have to, if he does have to miss some time. So good to see that. They kind of picked him up and were able to avoid getting swept in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of always been the thing for this club or any club. I mean, injuries, there's never a good time for one, and you do have to figure out ways to adjust to it. The Braves have shown themselves to be a pretty resilient bunch, but this was definitely a tough one. If you're just kind of looking at all of the different players on the field and on the Braves, when you came into the season and you thought, all right, everybody needs to stay healthy, but who might be at or near the top of that list? I think for most people, Ronald Acuña Jr. was the one that you just wanted to see him stay healthy and do what he did last year or anything close to it. It hasn't been the start that he has wanted, but today, just a kind of a bizarre injury for him in that we've seen him do this delayed steal of third base before to kind of jump right into that. And at this time, it seemed like he had second thoughts about taking third just based on how he was timing up the pitcher and catcher and throwing the ball back to the mound and how quickly it was happening. He got twisted up on that left knee, went down in a heap, and obviously was tagged out and then left the game. At least he did so under his own power, though, with some help. He wasn't carted off the field. That's an initially good thing. They did talk to him after the game, did Braves reporters, and it sounds like Acuña doesn't feel like this was as serious as the ACL tear, and for good reason. I mean, he's the one who experienced it. He would know that, but he is headed to the injured list. So we got a lot to parse through here, Jake. What's your general reaction to both watching the injury and, of course, what we heard afterwards? I guess we can get to that in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, watching the injury, it's that type of play that really worries you. I mean, similar to the one in spring trainings, and you run down and you're trying to make, just quick cuts on those knees. I mean, those are the ones that are scary. You see a lot of players get kind of those non-contact injuries. You never want to hear that because usually it is something bad. But, anytime you're trying to make a cut like that on those knees, I mean, it definitely scares you a little bit. Now, as far as what it could be, at this point, we're all just speculating and we're taking the words of Ronald, who has, experienced a lot of this and he knows. So I certainly hope that he's right. And I hope it's, not anything major. Maybe he just hyperextended it and hopefully, the time missed will be minimum for him. But either way, just scary anytime that happens. And we're all obviously waiting further evaluation of it on Monday. But again, hoping for the best. But again, anytime you see that non-contact and especially see a play like that where you're trying to make a quick cut, it's hard not to assume the worst.
No, it's not. And those non-contact injuries, a lot of times you hear about them in football training camps and you hear the news that comes out of that and you start to worry about it. Now, as we kind of break this whole injury news down, and again, Acuña has spoken about this. He is able to walk around, though, as Mark Bowman of MLB.com noted, with a very noticeable limp, but that is not something he was able to do the last time he had a major knee injury 3 years ago. So in and of itself, that is sort of an update, but he is going to have an MRI later on tonight is what Acuña said after the game. He also revealed that he's going to be heading to the injured list that will be a move I would imagine would be announced prior to Monday's game, when I do, like you, expect to get more update on that whole situation. And I'll be down there to hopefully, hear from Ronald Acuña Jr., Brian Snitker, and whoever else will be able to provide some of that. But until they get the imaging, we don't exactly know what Ronald's dealing with and what a timetable may look like. He did this same kind of thing in Boston, though it was running over the first base bag. He got a little bit twisted up, hyperextended the knee, missed a month, but was able to come back and obviously have a very good rookie season. In fact, some would say the best in the National League that year, according to the award that's hanging on his wall. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I guess I just say all that to say it seems like, for the most part, that there is some optimism around this, guarded or cautious as it may be.
Yeah, and you'll take any type of optimism right now with Ronald in this. Again, like you said, you see that, you kind of think the worst, but again, he would know it. I mean, he knows his body and his knee as well as anyone. So certainly hoping that that's the case and that it's nothing major. And, it's at a time where the Braves were hopefully getting some resources back, and they still could be. But now it's kind of takes the wind out of the sails just a little bit.
Yeah, we will be talking about that later on, because we could finally see the long-awaited return of Sean Murphy, who's been out for nearly 2 months. And, of course, Austin Riley, who's been on the bench for the last couple of weeks. You felt like it was a time where maybe the Braves are starting to get to full strength, and perhaps they will if Acuña's not gone for very long. But it does seem like we're going to still be playing that waiting game to get this whole group back together again. Acuña also said he did not feel or hear a pop in the knee. I thought that was a good thing. And again, not being carted off the field, being able to at least walk off with some help makes you feel like perhaps this is a lot more like that injury from 2018 than the one that he dealt with a few years ago, I should say. We won't know the full extent of this until the test. He may have avoided a major injury. That, of course, is the hope for the Braves. But there was some baseball that went on beyond just this injury, and I guess we should spend a little bit of time on the show talking about that. Chris Sale's latest gem, the offense also woke up in this 8-1 win. Jake, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that there are games, throughout the season that you had to have that one because it's 162 games and it can play on a lot of different ways. But this did feel like the difference between a really, really down road trip and one that at least they were able to pull the nose up as far as one-loss record. It was all hinging on being able to bounce back today, and they had the right man on the mound to help them do it.
They did, and Chris Sale, I mean, he has become a stopper for this team and has just been fantastic. But you're right. I mean, it wasn't the series we were hoping for. I mean, I said coming in, just looking at it on paper, if the Braves are playing anywhere like they're capable, it felt like it should have been a pretty easy win, but nothing coming easy for the Braves these days. So to be able to avoid the sweep, get the win on Sunday, and you're coming back home. And like you said, I know the Acuña news isn't great, but potentially getting back 2 other big sluggers in your lineup, gives you a little bit of added boost there. So, again, anytime you win, but, you go back to the last West Coast trip they had, or the last road trip they had on the West Coast, where it just felt like in that Dodger series, can you just escape there with 1 win and things would have felt a little bit better. So to be able to do that here, and like I said, coming back home, playing the Nationals again, you can't take anybody for granted at this point, but again, perhaps with some of the reinforcements they have coming, hopefully that will kind of springboard things, get this offense going, and hopefully get them going on a good run going into June, a month where they typically do a lot better.
Yeah, we have talked about that, and I'm sure we'll talk about it some more as far as, a get-right month for the Braves. June has provided that the last couple of years, and really, historically, has been a place where if the month of May wasn't kind to the Braves, at least they would start kind of feeling like and playing like themselves again, and especially the last couple of years, that has been the case. Will it be the case again here in 2024? The Braves would most certainly take that. Again, an 8-1 victory over the Pirates as Chris Sale improves to 8-1 on the year. Braves, Jake, are 10 games over 500, and putting aside all the stuff we've been talking about today, but just overall, the past month has really not felt like that. Going back to the 26th of April, this club is 13-14. They have scored the fewest runs in baseball, but a pitching staff that has been one of the top 5 in all of baseball and one of the top starting staffs in the National League. That has been how they have, I would say, weathered this storm to at least keep it around 500, even in a time when it feels like they have struggled mightily, and the record would probably indicate that they would be doing worse than they're doing right now. They've somehow managed to kind of, do a certain amount of damage control that was certainly necessary.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say that's just what good winning teams do. You're not playing your best baseball. You still find ways to win games. I think it's what the Braves have done. I mean, there's still so many good players there, so much good talent. They've been able to overcome the deficiencies of the offense, and a lot of that due to the great starting pitching that they've had. But it is just funny. We're talking about, how bad the Braves have been. And yet you look at their record and they're 10 games over 500. I think most teams would take that as they go through one of the worst stretches, possibly, hopefully, of the season, at least on the offensive side of things. But again, a lot of that credit goes to the pitching staff. It goes to Chris Sale. And you look at some of the offseason moves now, bringing in Sale, bringing in Ronaldo Lopez. I mean, again, we talk about it with Ozuna. Don't know where this offense would be without him. I don't know where this team would be without Chris Sale and Ronaldo Lopez and what they've gotten from those two guys.
Well, that's a really great way to tee it up. We've got a lot of Chris Sale to talk about as we continue here on the Braves Postcast. An 8-1 win over the Pirates. The Ronald Acuña injury news, though, kind of stole the headlines for the Braves to avoid a 3-game sweep and finish at 3-3 on their recent road trip before they come home to start a 4-game set with the Washington Nationals, which we will also be previewing as the Braves Postcast rolls on. We'll get to all of that, and we'll also give you those injury updates we're talking about with Austin Riley and with Sean Murphy after this quick break. Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down closer to first pitch, and with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Game Time has those last-minute deals where you can save up to 60% off buying for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and much more. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LockedOnMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but just create that account and redeem the code LockedOnMLB for $20 off as you download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Well, Jake, let's get into the line score and box score of what was an 8-1 Braves victory with a pretty good day for the offense, which you wouldn't think would be on a day in which perhaps you lose one of your key players for at least some period of time. How long will still determine when Ronald Acuña Jr. gets back to Atlanta and has that MRI. But for the Braves, 8 runs on 14 hits, no errors. Atlanta left 7 men on base in picking up the win and improving to 30-20 on the year. Pirates just 1 run on 5 hits, no errors. They left 6 men on base. The winning pitcher, Chris Sale, 8-1, improves to a perfect 5-0 in May, and I will get to that in a moment as well. Lowers his ERA to 2.12 on the season. Mazinski takes a loss for Pittsburgh. He drops to 0-2, and the Braves, with their 8-1 victory, do have a 500 road trip. Let's start with Chris Sale because, we have talked about the value, the importance, the impact, whatever you want to call it, of Chris Sale on the starting rotation, and I don't know that you can overstate it right now. As you look at his numbers for the month of May, it is simply eye-popping, but let's just look at today. 7 innings of 1-run ball, 4 hits, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts for him. His 20-inning scoreless streak, he was only able to extend that 1 more inning. But, Jake, he has just been stingy as it gets in the month of May, and the Braves have needed him, Max Fried, Reynaldo Lopez, Charlie Morton, and the rest of that pitching staff to help them out at this time, and Chris Sale's been delivering.
He has been, and they talked about it on the broadcast a little bit, and I know CJ was talking about the fact that maybe the identity of this team has just changed, and where last year the offense really had to do a lot of the work with the pitching staff struggling. This year it's been a lot of the pitching staff that's had to get it done and win a lot of close games. And good thing they got Chris Sale, because he has certainly helped in that regard, because he's not giving up many runs, and certainly hasn't in the month of May. I mean, it's just crazy. You look at his Baseball Savant page, and it's all red all the way to the right. I mean, it's just incredible what he's been able to do. And it's different. I mean, in this start, it was mostly, fastballs, but we've seen games where it's mostly sliders. And I thought early on the Pirates had a pretty good game plan against him and were putting some balls in play. He wasn't exactly getting the strikeouts, but he got better as the game went on and then started to rack up some of those strikeouts. So, it's just incredible to watch him pitch. And again, just what he's able to do with that fastball, slider, mix in the changeup, which he did through over 20 of those today as well. So, it's just, he's 35, but he's a veteran. He's been around for a long time. He knows how to pitch, and a tight strike zone today too. They talked about that a lot throughout the game, and kind of had to adjust to that, had to walk early on, but nothing else after that. We know he doesn't walk a lot of batters. So just really impressive. Again, I thought he got better as the game went on, and as he kind of fought back with what the Pirates were maybe doing to him a little bit earlier. Like I said, getting a little bit more contact on him, able to push across a run earlier, and he kind of adjusted back and just, again, got stronger and stronger as the game went.
Yeah, he definitely did. And that's just kind of been his calling card, I feel like, is that he maintains. I mean, a lot of folks wondered, is Chris Sale really going to be more than a 5 or 6 inning pitcher? He's been that consistently for the Braves thus far over his first, 10 starts, I believe now, in an Atlanta uniform. 2.12 ERA, and he has been a leader on the staff that has really stepped up in the absence of Spencer Strider. Mentioned over the last month that the Braves have been the lowest scoring team in Major League Baseball on my show on From the Diamond earlier on Sunday, and it's not something that I really expected to see here in 2024 for any long length of time, that the Braves would be the lowest scoring team in Major League Baseball, maybe on a given day, but even that seems to be kind of a toss-up because they haven't been shut out in over a season. But putting all of that aside, the Braves pitching staff has really stepped up and stepped forward, and the 4 men at the front of the rotation, I know they're sorting out the 5 spot, which we'll get into a little bit later as well. Last 23 starts for Sale, Fried, Lopez, and Morton, they have an ERA just over 2. And Chris Sale, in the month of May, if he doesn't win pitcher of the month, I don't know who does. 5-0 with an 0.56 ERA, 32 innings, 2 earned runs on 23 hits, 2 walks, 45 strikeouts. Jake, please find me a better candidate than Chris Sale, because there's not one.
Yeah, I'm not even going to bother looking it up. I don't know how it couldn't be him with what he's done. And we talk about it with him all the time. It's now 6 of his last 8 starts where he's gone 7 innings, and he's gone at least 5 innings in every start this year. So it's not just that Chris Sale's been able to come back, show that he's healthy, show that he's effective. He's also shown that he can go out there and give your team length every time out. And that's, as we talk about all the time, can be just as important sometimes, even in some of these games where he maybe didn't have his best stuff or gave up a couple of runs, which has only been really 2 starts all year. He still was able to get through 7 innings. So I think that's been just as impressive to me, the fact that he's so efficient, which comes with the fact that he doesn't walk a lot, but he's been able to go deep into games. And that's just huge for this team and this pitching staff who's played a lot of close games. We talked about that with them, the lack of runs that they've been getting. They've had to play a lot of close games, use some of their best relievers. So every time you get a 6-7 inning start like they've gotten from Chris Sale, it just helps the next day even more.
It definitely does. And he has been, as you said, a stopper for this club. He delivers another great performance after a weekend in which runs, once again, hard to come by for this Braves club. And that wasn't the case here on Sunday. And whatever the reasons why, you'll just take it that the Braves were finally able to pile up, 14 hits in this game. We haven't seen that a lot this season. Certainly haven't seen the 8 runs put on the board as well. But the Braves were able to do a few things in this one. And as you go up and down this lineup, after Acuña had to leave and he was 1 for 1 on the day, Jared Kelenic came into the game, played left field. Adam Duvall moved to right field. Kelenic, a really nice afternoon, 3 for 4 with 3 runs scored. Ozzie Albies had a couple of hits, couple of runs knocked in. Matt Olson with 3 more hits, including a long home run. Travis d'Arnaud knocked in a run. Adam Duvall homered. I know we'll talk a little bit more about what the plan will be without Ronald Acuña Jr., but I don't know if I can say it enough. There were many reasons why you signed Adam Duvall, and it wasn't just to create a platoon or take bats away from Jared Kelenic. It was in the event that something unforeseen happened and you were missing somebody for a length of time that you wouldn't want to go without him. I think Adam Duvall is going to be a pretty nice insurance policy, and he jumped in and was able to help out a little bit today with a solo home run off Aroldis Chapman.
Yeah, it's going to be great having him now. And again, I think you got him for 1 year, $3 million. I mean, it was a no-brainer type of deal to get him, even though you had Jared Kelenic. And again, it's probably going to play an important role. Obviously, we'll see what happens with Acuña going forward. But it's also a big spot for Jared Kelenic because you're probably going to see him play a lot more. You're going to see him play against lefties. And, what a spot to come in this game, pick up 3 hits after he had to fill in for Ronald, who left after that first inning. So great stuff for Jared Kelenic. And again, it could be an opportunity for him. Maybe it's an opportunity for a Forrest Wall. We'll see again what happens. I know we'll talk about that, but it's an opportunity for a lot of players here to step up. I mean, you're losing somebody in Ronald Acuña Jr., a leadoff hitter. So that's why I said, as deflating as it was to see him go that early in the game, to see a Kelenic come in and get 3 hits, to see a Matt Olson get a big 2-out RBI spot there for him with a double in the game. You see Adam Duvall get the home run and others just kind of step up in his absence. I thought that was really huge. Also want to mention that the Pirates lost their battery within the first 3 innings of this game. I don't know what was happening out on the field, but was a scary day for a lot of people playing in Pittsburgh. But either way, the Braves offense, I love the fact that they just kind of picked up Ronald. A lot of guys stepping up. Jared Kelenic in particular, though, a 3-hit day, filling in for Ronald at the top of the order. And Matt Olson, 3 hard hit balls. I had the home run. I mentioned that big 2-out hit that he had. Travis d'Arnaud, 3 hard hit balls. Michael Harris, 2 hits and a hard hit ball. So that's all encouraging signs. And again, we're going to need it with Ronald potentially out for a little bit.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned I had kind of lost it in the box score. Michael Harris with a multi-hit game also as the Braves pounded out those 14 hits. 8th home run of the year for Matt Olson. And after basically a month in which he didn't leave the park, those are starting to fly out with a little more regularity. And we know how hot he got over the course of the summer a year ago. Maybe that's ahead for him. Home run number 4 of the year for Adam Duvall, who can certainly hit him in bunches as well. And if he gets some significant playing time, might be able to do a little bit of damage for the Braves, which again is another reason why you bring him over. But I'm really fascinated to see, what goes on as far as the top of the order for the Braves. I think Michael Harris, Ozzie Albies are the obvious, incumbents who have been around for a minute that might hit leadoff for Atlanta. I wouldn't mind seeing what Jared Kelenic could do up there either. So Brian Snitker will have some options to kind of figure this whole thing out, even though it's not something that you ever want to be figuring out for a long length of time. And we'll find out a little bit more Monday what the Braves are dealing with as far as Acuña's absence is concerned once he does get that MRI. And when we come back, we will talk a little bit more about what is going on with the Braves lineup and the returns of Sean Murphy and Austin Riley, which are looming. And we'll get you set up for that 4-game series against the Washington Nationals. It comes your way next right here on the Braves Postcast. Order supplies from the website that is made for skilled trades. Find thousands of parts from hundreds of brands just a couple of clicks away at supplyhouse.com. Supplyhouse.com gives you 24/7 access to a huge selection of plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with fast delivery anywhere in the U.S. If you need help with an order, get industry-leading after-sales service from their friendly, knowledgeable customer support team and talk to a real person every time. Great news for plumbers, technicians, and contractors. Being a pro has its perks. Trade industry professionals can join their free TradeMaster program for free shipping and serious discounts on every order. Over 100,000 pros already trust the TradeMaster program to deliver results. Apply for your membership today. Get competitive edge on every order at supplyhouse.com/TM. Save money and time when you order online. Order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Well, Jake, a few more things for us to talk over as we get set for the Braves to come home for a 7-game homestand that begins with 4 against the Washington Nationals and is followed up with 3 against the Oakland Athletics. It all starts on Monday afternoon at 4:10 at Truist Park with a Memorial Day matinee. Braves could have Austin Riley and Sean Murphy back this week, perhaps as soon as Monday. That certainly sounds like the way Riley has been trending. We'll find out, though. That's been day-to-day for a while, and Sean Murphy has now played 4 games for AAA Gwinnett. Will he need any more? We'll also find out the answer to that perhaps on Monday.
Yeah, and it helps, I think, with Sean Murphy, the fact that you still have Travis d'Arnaud there. And so you could, give him every other day there for a little while to kind of ease him back in. So I would expect him to be back on Monday. I know he DH'd for Gwinnett on Sunday, went 0 for 4, brought his OPS down to like 973 with them as he's hit a couple of home runs already. But I would love to have Murphy back again, get some more power in the lineup. Travis, Trump, both have done a great job, but getting Riley back, I think, could be really huge. Getting somebody back the middle of that order when you're losing, a guy potentially at the top of the lineup there, to get somebody like Riley back, who again was having a good month of May before he got injured. So would love to see both of those guys back in the lineup on Monday. But with the afternoon, you could think maybe give them just another day with that being kind of an afternoon game. But again, hopefully we see both of them back in there really, really soon.
Yeah, it could make an impact. And clearly the Braves will have to figure it out without Ronald Acuña Jr., who did say after the game that he expects to go on the injured list. He may have already been told that, as a matter of fact. So the Braves will have to make a roster move as far as that's concerned. But the lineup, I think, was kind of the other question that I was getting to. Michael Harris or Ozzie Albies could jump to the top of the order. They could try somebody else there. Jared Kelenic might be the only other guy I could really think of that they might put up there, but we'll see how all of that goes. It's just nobody that does the kinds of things that Ronald Acuña Jr. does at the leadoff spot. It really sets the tone for this whole lineup, so you hope that he can get back sooner than later. But with Acuña going to the IL, I'm going to assume that Forrest Wall is the guy that gets the call up. It could be someone else, but he's already seen time in Atlanta, and I think if they could have found any amount of playing time for him, he might have stuck around longer. Duvall over to right field. Jared Kelenic left field every day. I think it's kind of an intriguing opportunity for him that typically comes when somebody goes down and you have to pivot and change plans. Jared Kelenic, I think long-term, the Braves project him as an everyday player who also plays against lefty starters. I think we're going to see some of that moving forward because he's clearly the best option they have in left field every day with Adam Duvall handling right field.
Yeah, certainly think this is a good opportunity for Kelenic again to play every day, get some starts against lefties. I mean, he came in today and was facing a lefty. He got a hit against the hustle single that he had there, infield single. But looking forward to seeing what Kelnick can do every day. And like I said, I think it's Forrest Wall as well. And look, Forrest Wall is somebody that he has done everything that he can possibly do. He had a great year at AAA last year. He's had a great year at AAA this year. He's had 2 great spring trainings. I mean, the guy has produced. He's done everything he can to deserve a chance, or at least show that he's willing of getting an opportunity. There just hadn't been room for him to get that chance. So we'll see what they do there. If it is Forrest Wall that comes up, and if it is him that gets, the majority of the at-bats, or if they just, give it Adam Duvall in right and Kelnick in left and kind of play it like that. But either way, one of these guys, if not a couple of them, are going to get a chance here with Ronald potentially on the shelf for a little bit.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see how exactly Brian Snitker utilizes all those pieces. But as we said earlier in the show, having somebody proven as much as Adam Duvall has, and a player the Braves know very well and like a lot, in the event that you had to go without one of your starting outfielders for any length of time, was something that signing obviously did, rather than simply just taking a bat away from Jared Kelnick. In this series against the Washington Nationals, it's going to be Charlie Morton in Game 1, Max Fried in Game 2, to be determined. Who's made more starts than the Braves wanted to this year will be the third man up here. And then it'll be Reynaldo Lopez in the finale against Washington. Who goes on Wednesday, I think, is the question, Jake. And I think it's anybody's best guess at this point, is the Braves just trying to sort out who exactly could be the short-term answer, or if they're going to have to, as I've said before, just hit shuffle and see which one comes up.
Yeah, I mean, it's Ray Kerr, I believe, could still start in that game if they wanted him to. I know it didn't go too well the other day, but I mean, he was kind of rushed into that last minute, sounded like. So give him a little bit of a pass there. I do like the stuff for him. He still got a ton of strikeouts in that game, with just a bit of a rough beginning to the outing for him. But yeah, we'll see who gets the chance there. Somebody's going to have to step up eventually. We haven't really discussed it, but the unfortunate news of AJ Smith-Shawver, going on the injured list with the oblique, sounds like he could be out for a little bit of time. The Braves have a lot of good starting pitchers down at the minor league level. It's just, do you think they're ready to get a chance, whether it be a Hurston Waldrop or even a Spencer Schwellenbach? They just called up an Ian Mejia to AAA. So they got some prospects down there doing some good things. But again, I don't know if they want to rush any of those guys up. But for Charlie Morton, Max Fried, seeing them get back out there, hopefully get the series off to a good start. Morton in particular, he's had back-to-back kind of rough outings. Last one, he kind of battled through 5 innings. One before that, things just kind of went awry on him. So looking forward to seeing what he could do on Monday. Like I said, hopefully get back on a good start for him.
Yeah, and Charlie has been, far more good than bad. And as I've said, and I know you've heard it and you may be tired of hearing it, if Charlie Morton is your fourth starter, is the biggest problem you're dealing with in your rotation, you're in a pretty good spot. And I say that tongue-in-cheek. The Braves are pretty happy to be in the spot they're in, considering they do not have Spencer Strider. And this rotation, thanks to Chris Sale, Max Fried, Charlie Morton, and Reynaldo Lopez, has been able to stabilize a lot. They will still have to figure out that fifth spot. I don't know if curious is the word, but Ray Kerr even moving to a starting role is something that kind of caught me a little bit flat-footed, because I thought, hey, this is a multi-inning bullpen option. Wouldn't you like to have this guy around in that mix, just to go ahead and take the burden off of maybe only being Jesse Chavez for any length of time? And Ray Kerr can certainly miss some bats. Maybe he'll get another opportunity. Maybe the Braves know more about what they're doing than I do. That's also possible. And you mentioned a lot of good arms that they have at the minor league level that could jump up at some point, but it doesn't feel like any of those are necessarily imminent, at least not yet. But at some point this summer, you brought up some names that I think the Braves will have to discuss. And in the next couple of months, maybe Ian Anderson's in that mix, but it doesn't help at the moment in terms of maybe finding that answer. They're going to have to go through a few of those options and figure out which one they like the most. Again, it will be Game 1 of the 3-game set coming your way on Monday from Truist Park. Charlie Morton's 3-1, 3.35 ERA. Lefty Mitchell Parker will be on the mound for the Washington Nationals. He's 3-2 with a 3.32. The Nationals, Jake, they've been more competitive this year than I think a lot of people anticipated. We'll see how this series plays out. And as we know, it's not played on paper. So the Braves, I don't think, given their run scoring problems, are going to be looking past anybody.
No, you can't. Because like I said, I mean, this Pirates series just on paper, I felt like should have been one they should have won easily, potentially swept. They were lucky to get out of there, with a win on Sunday. So you can't take anybody for granted. The Nationals, had been playing 500 baseball there for a little while. Now they're 3-7 in their last 10, down to 23-28, a -18 run differential. But they can pitch a little bit. Gore has definitely made some strides this year. Parker, the kid we'll see on Mondays, had some good showings as well. So it'll be a tough series for him.
Be interesting to see how the Braves match up against the, I would not necessarily upstart, but certainly more competitive than maybe first thought, Washington Nationals. It's a 4:10 p.m. Eastern Time first pitch for Game 1. Charlie Morton against Mitchell Parker as the Braves return home to open up a 7-game homestand. That brings us to the end of this edition of the Braves Postcast. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Sports Atlanta on YouTube. Leave us those likes and comments right here on the video. Share the show with a friend and subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcast. Once again, Atlanta able to avoid a sweep, but the Ronald Acuña injury news, that has everybody waiting to see how it's going to play out on Monday. For Jake Mastroianni, I'm Grant McAuley. We look forward to catching you this week. And until then, so long, everyone.